You got a story the world needs to hear, a spark inside that's crystal clear. No more hiding in the digital crowd. It's time to stand up, speak out loud. Every dream starts with a single sound. Your message matters, let it resound. The spotlight's waiting, the mic is yours. Step into the moment, open the doors. Your voice, your vision, your stage. Turn the page, ignite the rage. From whispers to waves, let your truth engage. Your voice, your vision, your stage.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the storytelling journey. I am so happy to be back. We missed our episode 2 weeks ago, and you start to miss these when you're unable to attend. They become so contagious. I just love live streaming and the whole live content strategy. I'm just excited to welcome everyone who is joining us today. We have a couple of listeners joining, Keith and Layla. Layla joining us from the West Coast, Canada, Vancouver, and Keith Keller joining us from down under in Melbourne, Australia. Welcome, everyone, as you're coming in. Meryl is coming in from Jersey, just not too far from where our guest speaker is joining us from. My name's Americo. I am your host today, live stream coach, producer, on-demand content specialist. Listen, I love doing these, and I can't tell you how excited I am for today's conversation. My co-host today, the infamous Jay Pasqua, the storytelling strategist, author of The Rules of Engagement in Storytelling. Jay, how you doing? Welcome back.
Man, I'm doing good. Lots of things going on. And, later on in the show, I'm going to be offering something to our audience today, free for 14 days.
Wow, we got a basket of goodies because our guest today, Ron Wyatt, photographer extraordinaire, has a fabulous professional journey. And let me tell you, the stories that he probably has to share with us. They say that a picture has 1,000 words, and I bet you he's got 1,000 words for every picture he's taken. We're going to bring him up on stage shortly. But before we get started, I just want to share with everyone, we are streaming live across LinkedIn, YouTube, and Substack. Stay tuned, because after we go live, I start working and curating on-demand content. You're going to find articles and posts over on LinkedIn as well as Substack, summarizing today's conversation, meeting those who enjoy content in the written word. We're here to meet you where you enjoy hanging out. So stay tuned for that. And as always, if you like what you're hearing, please drop a comment, share this with friends, and what the heck, save it if you think it's worth saving. It goes a long way. Thank you for your support. Now, if you have questions, drop them in the comments, and I will be sure to bring them up so that Ron and Jay could answer the questions throughout the show as we engage. For those who are returning listeners, you know that I enjoy these events when they're immersive and engaging. I want this to be an experience not only for our guests today, but as well for our audience members. All right, enough about the housekeeping, rules of engagement. What a play on words, rules of engagement. We're going to jump on camera and bring our guest, Ron Wyatt. Ron, how you doing? I'm gonna turn on the camera.
All righty, I'm doing fine. Looking forward to our talk tonight. Usually in the beginning of conversations, I'm a little nervous, so let's just have a good time. I'm so grateful to be able to share my photography career with everyone tonight.
Hey, listen, don't be nervous. We're here to help you lower your barriers of anxiety. This is just a conversation like any other. You and I, my friend, we both woke up this morning and we put both our pants on one leg at a time. So we're not any
Amen.
different than one another. All right, let's bring
Amen.
Jay into this picture here. There he is. All right, you're the man of the hour, so you're going to get the bigger screen. So
All righty.
why don't you kick us off with an introduction? Because you shared some wonderful photos that are going to go hand in hand with the stories and the conversation we're going to have. But let's kick us off with an introduction.
Okay. Well, right now I'm celebrating my 50th year doing photography, and I put a program together that I take to senior citizen homes, libraries, and camera clubs. And to open up the presentation, I show a picture of me and my first wife at the age of 19 years old. When we went on our honeymoon, someone gave me an Instamatic camera, and all of the pictures of the beautiful women, I mean, the beautiful scenes in Bermuda on our honeymoon came back out of focus from camera shake. It wasn't that my wife was slapping me because I was photographing the beautiful women. I mean, the beautiful scenes in Bermuda. And I came home and was very upset that none of the photos were sharp or in focus. And I decided to learn how to do photography. I was working at General Motors on the assembly line. And I started photographing covered bridges and light towers and whatnot. And then one day, Exxon blew up in Linden, New Jersey. I went down to take some photos, and it never dawned on me that my local newspaper would have sent their staff photographers to go cover that event. And I called them up in the excitement of what they thought I had made them invite me to come in to show the work. And long story short, they invited me to become a freelance photographer. They asked if I would like to do that, and I said, sure. So I would work at General Motors 6:30 to 3, and evenings and weekends I would do freelance photography for the News Tribune. One day the photo editor wanted to assign a giant football game, and the staff photographer said he didn't want to do it. Let Al Press do it. Al Press meaning AP Photos. And I said, I'll go shoot the game. And the photo editor said, okay, Wyatt, here's the credential. So my very first NFL sporting event, I had photos of every major play in the game, every play, interception, tackle, everything. And they were so impressed that they gave me the credentials to shoot Giants, Jets, and Eagles. And that's how my career started.
And we're gonna bring some of those photos up in just a moment.
Mm-hmm.
But in this virtual space, you have Jay, who is also a journalist, and I'm sure he has stories of collaboration or lack of collaboration with his photogs in the newsroom or in the press room. Jay, have you ever dabbled in photography?
Yes, I did, and I wasn't good at it. I'm gonna be very honest. So I kept that to the pros. They tried to teach me a bunch of things, like backlighting, aperture, stuff like that, and you just got to make sure that you've got all of those things working at the same time. So, it really is a science, right? And once you got it down, I think that the people who do it, they really have all those things together, right? And now, in the age of digital cameras, there's a lot of settings that you just kind of just push some buttons and you're done. Back in the day when I first started, man, you had maybe one or two things that were digital on your camera, but the rest you had to mess with to get the right setting. So when I first started out, man, I wasn't good at all. But So I left it up to the professionals. Now I started out in print and then moved into video when I worked at the cable news station. And so, but if I didn't get my legs at the print, I guess, newspaper, now that we're talking about legacy media, at the newspaper, if I didn't get my sea legs, basically, I wouldn't have been able to do that stuff in video, right? And so I just took some of all of that I learned into that realm. But I will say this, I stumbled into the world of storytelling and I stayed, and I think there's a lot of us who are legacy media veterans, right, that kind of stumbled into it. Oh, I was doing this thing and then I got this thing. Oh, wait a minute, I can do freelance work for the news business? And still go to my job and get a byline in the paper? Yeah, let me do it. Let me do it. And, and one of the really highlights of my career was, again, it was one of those things I stumbled into. I was out as a young man clubbing and was about to put my head down. And I talked about this previously. And a 747 crashed into the mountains on Guam. And I went out and covered it. Now, I covered it for the local news organization, and somehow the AP picked it up. So the Associated Press picked it up. AP International called me, asked me some questions, and all of a sudden I get a byline in the New York Times.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
that's a door opener.
Well, look at you two getting.
I mean, our stories sound almost the same,
and here I am, I too suck at photography, but I got my digital phone that I now rely on, and the SLR cameras and the technology, and I'm sure it drives professionals like yourself, Ron, up the wall that everyone thinks they're an avid photographer because they have a Samsung S24 that shoots. There you go. Right. So why don't we lean in on the technology and really maybe go back to the grassroots? Let me ask you the question that stems back to your honeymoon narrative. Now, at that point, how did you know that struggle that you faced with your Kodak camera, how come it didn't ignite, discouragement, but instead it ignited your passion for photography?
That is an excellent question. I never thought about it that way. It was when on the honeymoon, I also snorkeled. And so I enjoyed looking at the fish. So I came home and got to be a certified scuba diver. So, when I bought my first camera and I started going around photographing covered bridges, lighthouses, and just fell in love with it. But, I don't have a deeper answer. I never thought about that, but I promise you, have me back in a week or two and I'll have a better answer. It just happened. I was working on the assembly line at General Motors. When I graduated high school, on the way home from graduation, my mother said, GM is hiring. Get your butt down there and get a job. So I graduated on Wednesday, got the job on Thursday, started on Monday. Didn't even have summer vacation. And it's like I got married at 19 and we were traveling and whatnot. And I just fell in love with it. To me, I'm a disgruntled Christian, okay? But I believe it was a gift, a talent that God gave me. and I've enjoyed it to the fullest. And the miraculous opportunities that has come in front of me has been, I can only give God the credit for it, because and again, I'm really gonna think about that and have a better answer later, that dot the I and cross the T. But I just bought that camera, and the first day I bought the camera and I practiced firing it without shaking the camera. And then I used to go look at magazines, and I started liking photography. And then when the explosion happened, that's what made me really say, oh, I can make a living at this. And I did it for 10 years, working at GM and doing photography. Doing NFL football season, I called out sick every single Monday during football season, because I was at an NFL game on Sunday, and I couldn't get back for work on Monday morning. Thank God for unions at that time. But I'm really gonna work on that. Maybe I'll do a blog post on explaining that.
Hey, listen, my intent isn't to put any of my guests on the spot. You're not compelled to come back with an answer,
Oh,
but we do
shucks,
have
I
a
wanted
question.
another invite.
Hey, the doors are always open. I want you to come back freely, not feeling that I'm twisting your arm to come back. The doors are always open. And we have a question from our listening audience. Michael LeBlanc is asking, question for Ron. Are you a Canon, a Nikon, or a Sony guy?
I was Canon for 30 years. The 5D put one of my kids through college. And then I went to Nikon, and Nikon sponsored me with $52,000 worth of camera gear to shoot the Beijing Olympics. So that made me switch to Nikon after that. And then I did 3 tours with the Moscow Ballet, and the guests were complaining that my cameras were making too much noise when I was photographing the shows. So long story short, I went to all the camera companies and asked who could sponsor me with a camera that doesn't make any noise, and Sony gave me the best deal. And then after that, I decided to switch to Sony. So now I'm a Sony shooter. Okay, and just loving it. I just went to Panama in December, and Sony let me borrow a A92, I'm sorry, A12, and a 400-800 lens. And so now I'm trying to raise $10,000 so I could buy those 2 pieces of equipment before I go on my next trip. So that's the answer. 30 years with Canon, 10 years with Nikon, and now I'm with Sony.
And not one mention other than from Keith about Olympus.
No, but I speak at camera clubs, and it's an older group of people, and it's like that is the camera for the senior citizen photographers. They're claiming that the camera is lighter. They're liking the lens selection, so they can only carry one. When I do my photo tours, I always recommend you take 2 cameras with you at all times: a wide angle lens, a telephoto lens, and I have black rapid straps, so I have dual straps, so that I'm carrying it that way. But Olympus is really, really, I'm gonna say it's the #1 camera when I go to speak to seniors at camera clubs, and I'm talking the average age is maybe 70. I was at a talk in Long Island last night, and there was supposedly a 95-year-old photographer in the audience last night.
Oh, wow. Well, funny you should mention retired. Keith is retired, so he fits right in with the Olympus demographic.
Yeah, I always, like, if someone joins me on the photo tour, I really try to convince them that, you don't want to just go with a single body and a single lens, because one minute you need a wide angle, next minute you need a telephoto, and you don't have time to switch lenses. If you have both of those, you need the 2 cameras. But the older groups, they just don't want to deal with that extra weight. So, I hope I don't get to that point.
Well, it seems like you love, and your passion for photography runs deep, and I'd love to continue. Let's continue this story and highlight and spotlight your professional journey. Listen, let's talk a little bit about the important habits that you had to create and generate at a young age. Can you talk about the mindset? So you're a self-taught photographer, and I don't Jay's on this once you answer the question on the mindset as well of someone trying to articulate and tell a story and the habits that come with it so that it just becomes seamless and effortless.
That's for me.
That's for you. You get to kick it off.
Okay. Well, like for me, when I first started, I was working at General Motors and then doing the newspaper work, so it was always a hassle. And then I ended up shooting sports, so it caused me to be away. There's a certain time of the year where there's NFL, Major League Baseball, college football, and and you could find yourself being away every night of the week. Okay. And that, being married at 19, that was one of the problems that my first marriage faced was not being around. So, and then it's like you're on assignment, you're on a deadline, and you want to tell the story as quickly as possible. Make sure you're covering the story. Make sure you get the IDs and whatnot, and also doing the captions for the photos that you're doing. And I'm a terrible speller, so that was the part I didn't like, was having to caption my photos along those lines. And that was one of the good things about shooting sports, because basically you just had to have blah blah blah, hits the ball, scores a run, etc. And you get the roster and you copy and paste the names, and you're good and done. So but I always, pretty much you find yourself really never really satisfied with a photo. Somebody will tell you the photo is great, and you'll always find something that you could have done better, and that's part of the process of doing photography. I just enjoyed it that much to make a living. And like, I'm 70 years old now, and I'm not the richest person or a billionaire, but I don't think anybody has had the experience that I had. My kids, when I pass away, they'll be saying my dad enjoyed what he did, and it was a great career. And I even have a picture of Halle Berry hugging me. All right, so come on.
Jay, let's put a storytelling spin on the question here.
So, when I was thinking about my come up, right, and what you were saying, like, I'm thinking about how did I go from here to here? And I think there's a lot of us who are in the industry who are the types that we want to get it done. We are perfectionists, right, in the industry. We want to get the story right. We want to get it right the first time. We want to get the right angles. We want to get the right information out to the people. So I think we're all kind of born with that. There's a lot of us who are, and who they admittedly said, yeah, man, the entire time I was a journalist, I always strive to be the best. Not necessarily for the accolades, but for the people, for the audience, for the ones who are enjoying and getting that information. Man, so that was really important to me. So why did I go from here to here? It's because, one, I don't want to screw up, right? I don't want to be the guy and go looking back at my, Bermuda pictures and going, crap, that would have been a nice photo. That would have been several nice photos, right? And so I will go back and I'll be like, let me go ahead and make this a really good story. So as a cub reporter, let me just give you a little insight. When I was a cub reporter, my producer would get pissed off. He'd be like, Jay, what are you doing? That's a 2-minute short story. Get out of here. Get it out. Get it out. Get it out. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Dude, I want to get the story right. There's so much information. And he was like, no, man, you're spending too much time. Give me the salient points and get it to press right now. Right. And so those are the things, right? And so over time, you kind of learn that, right? You don't necessarily have it right then and there. You learn how to pick the right information, the right visuals to go with the story so that you can have a big impact on the audience. And hearing you when you're talking about the games and stuff, I remember going to another island and covering a baseball game and doing the exact same thing. This time, instead of going down and copying the names in the roster, I had the videographer shoot the roster. So when I get back to the station, I'm like, bam, let me pull it up and just type away, and I'm done. So these are some of the tricks of the trade.
I want to say you're my brother from another mother, man. we're almost like twins, you know.
Yeah,
You'd be surprised. They say how many degrees of separation? We're all what is it, 2 or 3 degrees, 6 degrees, depending on who you're talking to.
Yeah.
But Jay and I have similar anecdotes that kind of connect us in our DNA somewhere, and it's funny because this happens with every guest, does it not, Jay? There's some strand of DNA that we all share.
Yeah, there's usually a connection, and you know, that's the beauty of us sharing our stories. Anytime that we share our stories, I find that we are connected somehow, some way through those stories. And the people out there who say, "Oh, you know, we're so different. I'm this faith. I go, you know, to this mosque, or I go to this church." Those things don't matter when it comes down to us just being human beings. We feel the same, we cry the same, we put on our pants the same way. Some of us jump into them, not me. I can't do that anymore. but yeah, I mean, really those were the times I think that were where you're trying to figure out how to do the job the best way possible without losing focus of what the people should receive from the stories that we're covering.
Yeah.
Right? Even photogs, right? You think that all they do is take pictures or take videos. No, man, they're getting all the details. Where was it taken from? Who were the people in the shots? What time of the day it was? You're like,
Right.
why? Why would that even matter? It matters when you get to the guy who's sitting at the city desk going, where the hell were you at? What time of day was this? That's why it matters. So that the people understand just how much information can be distilled into a story and how it can be impactful for those same people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
So
Mike is asking.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Finish your thought. And
So the picture isn't really worth 1,000 words. You also have to put the words to it.
well, according to Mike, and I might agree here. I'm kind of reading between the tea leaves. The picture isn't worth 1,000 words. It's the edits that make it worth 1,000 words.
Yeah.
Where do you sit on editing? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Is it a necessary evil, or do you just over the years you just get better at your craft that editing becomes less of an issue?
For me, there's this creature called Photoshop, and I have very limited knowledge of Photoshop. I try to get everything right in camera, and you know, I use Adobe Camera Raw, and it's pretty much doing everything I need. Yesterday, I spoke at a camera club in Long Island, and I went to this gentleman's house, and he showed me his work, and he showed me what he was able to do editing with Photoshop. So he invited me to come spend a whole Saturday with him to teach me Photoshop. but I try to get it right in camera, so I have limited amount of stuff to do to the photo. And basically, I'm into camera raw. I know that doesn't sound good as a professional photographer, but fortunately for me, I've been able to be successful getting it right in camera, and then just minor tweaks in Adobe Camera Raw when it comes to producing my photos. I've done a couple of exhibitions where I'm having some big, large prints done, or say if I'm doing a corporate portrait for somebody, then I will hire somebody to go and do all of the really nice little finishing touches on it to get done. But again, I say get it right in camera, and then you'll have less problems or less opportunities to need software editing like Photoshop, etc.
Awesome. Listen, we have people who are asking. Keith is asking, do you have some photos for travel? Listen, I have a few photos queued up, and I think we're going to park my questions because Layla now has a question, and I want our listeners to have their questions answered. And this has been a great conversation. So let's bring up Layla's question here. How did you get the sponsorship to be able to get new cameras? That's amazing. What would you tell someone if they're interested in obtaining sponsorship?
Okay, for me, I speak at camera clubs, camera stores. I've spoken at B&H 4 times, which is the #2 camera store in the world. I've been to the major conferences for WPPI for photographers. So, and then I'll show some of the work, and then I'll very easily give credit that this was taken with the Nikon D3 along those lines. And my kids, when I die, they know to put on my tombstone, "You have not because you ask not." Okay. So, right now I'm working on a sponsorship program. I just got invited to do a show, and they want me to have 40 pieces in the show. And so I need to have printed and framed another 20 pictures or so. And so, I'm looking for a sponsor to help me pay. So you need to have some credentials. They need to know that you're legit. And one of the things that I'm working on now is my social media. I've been successful with corporate photography and from word of mouth. But now with my photo tour business, I need to reach more people. Right now, I need 2 people for Alaska, and I'm told that I need to speak to 2,000 people to get those 2. And so I'm trying to work on getting my numbers up with social media and things. She could contact me, and I'll be happy to spend some time going over more of some of the things that I've done. I need to see where she's at with her, uh, background that helps make it legit for them to sponsor you.
There you go, Layla. You have yourself an open invitation for another hot chocolate chat. All right, our friend Peter is making a proclamation. You are the winner, my friend. Holly Berry, like
Yeah. I also do video work. So I'm a video cameraman. I was a cameraman for MSNBC, Comcast Sports, and then I worked with some companies that would do the commercials for new movies that would come out. And I was a cameraman for interviews for 2 days. And after the 2-day assignment, she says, "Would you like to take a picture?" And I said, "Sure." So she gives me this bear hug, and I'm like, "No, no, you can't hug me." Because I always said to my wife, I would never cheat on you, with the exception of maybe Halle Berry, not knowing the opportunity to come meet her would happen one day. And when she went she gave me this big hug, and then I said no, and I'm standing there like a zombie, like I'm afraid that she's hugging me. The photo is, I believe the photo was on Photo Adventures with Ron pictures of me at work. It's like the last photo, you know. So that was it was a fun opportunity to get to do that, though, you know.
Oh, that is fantastic. You know, I'm pretty sure that the fear wasn't, or the anxiety wasn't so much that Hallie was hugging you, but that the missus.
Yep, you know, I said, I give you my word, I will never cheat on you. I would never do anything inappropriate. But maybe with Halle Berry, that's a different story. And it was, you know, it was really weird that the opportunity came up, you know. So
Okay, we have Marcia is asking a question. Uh, let's pull it up here. Would you take photos of war or demonstrations now in?
um, only if if I'm assigned. Um, I a couple of years ago, I got hired by the Moscow Ballet to do 4 shows in Florida when they had the big hurricane, and I drove through the scene, and I just saw how terrible it was, and I didn't feel comfortable taking the photos, so I didn't do it. For me, I haven't had the opportunities to cover a war, and I've never really had an opportunity to shoot a demonstration. You know, I did go to one of the Million Man marches. So, you know, if somebody called and said, "Hey, we need you to shoot this," then I would probably accept the assignment because it's just something that I've never done before, and I would like to maybe take a stab at capturing that.
Well, there you go, Marcia. There's the answer to your question. Ron, you've authored 4 books. There may be more, but we've captured these 4.
Yeah.
Bear with me. Through the lens of Tanzania
Hmm.
and shoes, and my old age and my vision can't capture the title of that. That's the nest, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the bird's nest, and that's a smaller version of some of my Olympic photography. I'm doing a new book to have more of the photography in it. But a friend of mine, all of these were produced by some friends. A friend of mine's been trying to get me to do a book for years, and finally he just said, "Send me the photos. I'll put the book together." So he put that Olympic book. And then another lady friend of mine, she liked my photos from the bear, so she produced that book with me. And at the end, we're going to give away a copy or a PDF of the copy of the Bear With Me book. And then on my recent trip to Tanzania, I decided I wanted to do some more, just get into more of the book business. And the lady that produced the Tanzania book and the Bear With Me book, she's really, really into shoes. And so when I went to Indochina, I fell in love with watching the people ride the scooters in Indochina. And one lady or 2 ladies had really nice shoes while they were on the motorcycle, the scooters. And so I just had an attraction towards photographing shoes. And so I started documenting every time I go to China or Indochina, I shoot shoes. And this lady, Sherry Bellamy, she actually went on my website and took all the photos of the shoes on my website and produced this book. She didn't have the original files. She grabbed them from the website. So that tells you the story of what people can do by snatching your photos. But I love I love the way the book came out. And this is a shot where there was a little hole in the ceiling, and the sun came through, and it just lit up this one pair of shoes, and the rest weren't in the light. And she used that for the cover.
That's awesome. All right, let's start going through some of these photos, and let's let's hear the story behind them. And
Okay.
Jay, please jump in at any time because I've taken this off camera. We're simply going to talk through these. I want those who are watching and listening to focus on the story, the narrative, and the images, because these are truly spectacular images that you've taken. So I'm going to go on a limb here and guess that this photo that I'll bring up is from Bear With Me.
Oh, yes. Now, when Sherry, I call her best of show because she's entered a few contests and won best of show, so that's my nickname for her. You know, I don't call her by her first name. I call her best of show. But I sent her this picture, and I wanted this picture to be on the cover of Bear With Me. It was my favorite photo on my trip to Alaska to photograph birds. Birds. I'm sorry, bears. And then she produced the cover with this shot, and then she produced the cover that's actually on the book, and her shot was better, and that was that. But this was one of my favorite photos. With my photo tours, I send a list or email to camera clubs, and I ask the photographers what's on their bucket list, what are places, what are photos you would like to capture. And one is bears catching salmon in Alaska. And I was fortunate for the first time to be able to go. And it was just unbelievable, the photo opportunities that I was able to capture there.
So I'm going to say some stories are better said from a distance.
Uh,
Yeah.
oh, but let me, if you go on my website, I'm going to post a picture on my Facebook page and all my social media. I'm going to post a photo on the first day. We on the first day of going out to photograph the bears, we got off the plane, and with me and another photographer and a pilot were off the plane. There was still more people in the plane, and a bear walked right up to us. We weren't even on the ground 5 minutes. And so tomorrow I'll be posting, and I had one camera with that was for still photography, and one camera was for video, and I photographed and videotaped this bear coming at. And the moral of the story, that was a Kodak moment, and you don't have time to think about, oh, a bear is 5 feet away from me. You're more concerned, like we were talking earlier, you got to get the picture. You don't want to say, oh, I saw this, but I don't have the photo. And that's what happened, with the whole bear opportunity to shoot.
You know, you mentioned something briefly, but I want to kind of jump in on that. You know, a lot of my friends who are photographers are also now shooting video because of the digital aspect of these cameras now.
Yes, yes.
And so have you expanded now into video as well? And are you also doing reporting? Because some of these guys that I know, they're actually doing reports from the field using the video cameras.
Well, I like my plans for upcoming photo tours is to shoot video because to me, you know, the reel seems to be more important than photographs, and I want to be able to tell the story, you know, with video to show what an experience is like to go photograph bears, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I do have a video background, but when I had the opportunity to either shoot video or still photography, I was making more money shooting still photography. And so I chose to just stick with the still photography. And but today, you know, reels are very important now. And so I'm sure there's people out in the audience that will tell me, you know, that's almost top priority now is to be able to shoot video. So I plan to, on all my trips, at least offer video and shoot video just to be able to come back and produce the reels and tell the stories, interview people while they're having a good time and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's definitely on the radar screen for me to do the two of them.
That's awesome. Now, before we move on to the next sequence of photos, when's I know you're planning another Alaska trip. When is that taking
Yes.
place?
That's going to be July 10th to the 15th. I have 3 spots still available. What's good about this time, the first time I went to Alaska to photograph bears, I went in September. And that's when the salmon are starting to die and they're not as active. And now June, July is when they're jumping out the water. And on my bucket list to get the photo of a bear at the falls catching a salmon jumping in the water. So I've been promised that the time that I'm going in July will that's the kind of photography I'm going to see. And the other thing that I just learned that in June, July, the salmon are gray, but then towards September, when I was there, the salmon start to turn red. So most of my salmon shots are red salmon and with a little bit of gray. So I'm looking forward to going back, like I said, in July and photographing them with the silver color and also jumping out the water. That is that. And then once I have that, we'll do another bear book. So bear with me.
Fantastic. We'll bear with you. Listen, Mike LeBlanc has jumped in, and he feels like there's a bespoke song coming on. Mike does a fabulous job creating music, and he's not too far from you. He's in Jersey, and I do believe I saw in the thread that he's reaching out, wants to connect with you. But maybe there's a collaboration there of some kind where your videos and your photos can be put to music and an entire story can unfold. So just planting that seed, not twisting anyone's arm, but I see some synergy there.
I appreciate the seed planting and like I said, this is almost going to be a new career for me when it comes to doing the video. So that would be fine. I love music. I've been through some tough times, and I'm a smooth jazz fan, and I'm a Pat Metheny fan, and there's nothing like 2-3 in the morning, headphones on, listen to some really nice comforting music, and then do your editing or looking over 500 or 1,000 photos or whatnot. Just today I went to the bank and put a check in, and then there was a song, Lovely Day was on a commercial, was the background music of a commercial. And I went to my Google Drive and said, give me Lovely Day. And I spent about 20 minutes just humming and singing that song because it just lifted up my spirit. So yes, I would love to speak to and work together on that. That sounds like a great plan.
Fantastic. Now, Marcia's got another question. She's asking, Ron, what's the photo that you're most proud of, and which one makes you nostalgic?
I'm going to say it's between Kobe Bryant slam dunking at the Beijing Olympics, and I would think the photo of the bird's nest. Those are the two. When I do my sports presentation, I end my program with the Kobe shot, and it's hanging on the back of my wall. And that's a photo that I took at the Beijing Olympics, and it was a fast break. And when I'm shooting down the far end of the court, I use one lens. It was a 200 to 400 Nikon, by the way. And then when I'm shooting on my end, I use a 24 to 70. Kobe steals the ball. He does a fast break, and I don't have time to put the long lens down and pick up the closer end lens. And so I followed Kobe, and it got to a point where I wasn't able to look through the viewfinder, and I just panned the camera without looking through the viewfinder. And I tilted up with my video skills. I knew that I needed to pan and tilt up. And you can see the shot of Kobe slam dunking, and it was like a miraculous miracle photograph. And I've that's probably one of my favorite photos that I've ever taken. And then the bird's nest is the second one because it was a closing ceremony night at the Beijing Olympics, and I'm there for 30 days. And the very last night, I'm pushing all of my equipment, and I had packed my cameras away. During my career, I've had 3 camera bags stolen. So I'm very conscious and very security tight. But I saw the bird's nest. Out of all the other nights, it never had the reflection that it had that night. And I took the picture, and you'll be surprised how that photo has opened doors for me. And it was one photo that I almost didn't take. When I do my talks, I tell people, when you hear that still voice talk to you, 99% of the time that voice is telling you the truth, and you need to listen to that voice, because the last thing you want to say is, I knew I should have done it, as opposed, I'm glad I did it. And that's so those are the two photos that kind of have a story behind it that, I enjoy sharing.
Oh, that is beautiful. The Kobe story. It's like one of the finest athletes that will go
Right.
down in the
Yes.
history books, and
Yes.
no longer with us, but never forgotten.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's move into some chillier photography. We got a couple of fabulous shots that I'd love to hear the story. Um,
Uh, okay. When I do my sports presentation and my 50-year presentation, these are protest photos. Long story short, I'll try to make this quick. Kodak hired me to shoot the Athens Olympics. They loved the way I handled their VIPs and the sporting photography. And they said, we'll definitely give you a call for the next time, and we'll hire you again. And so all of a sudden, the winter games come up, and I'm waiting to get the call, and I never got the call. So I called them, and they said, Ron, we don't want to hire you because you don't ski. And I'm like, what? And so in my sports presentation, I show some winter sports that shows that skiing has nothing to do, or whether I can ski or not has nothing to do with capturing good photos. And this is some of the winter photo shots that I've took. Now for the Beijing games, I was waiting to hear from them, and long story short, I'm having dinner at a hibachi restaurant, and I was playing with the chopsticks. So I hadn't heard from Kodak, so I was wondering if they were going to hire me. And so I took a picture of the chopsticks, and I sent an email to Kodak. I said, I got my bags packed, I got my cameras all ready, I got my chopsticks ready. All I need is the assignment. And I sent them the email, and about 4 days later, they sent me an email and said, that we had 3 photographers for Athens, but Getty Images is in charge of photography, but we insist that we have our own photographer. And so they gave me the shot, and I got to shoot the Beijing Olympics. So these are winter sports for my protest that show that skiing has nothing to do with being able to capture winter sports photos. And in my sports talk, I show more of these type of photos. Hope that wasn't too long-winded.
no, listen, that was beautiful. Jay,
Man, I mean,
what are your thoughts?
yeah. So a lot of things come to mind. Let me share with you a story. I don't have a Halle Berry story, but I have a Mariah Carey story.
Oh.
So this radio station was sponsoring the concert that never really happened. It didn't happen at all. But backstory to this, Mariah Carey had an au pair, or a babysitter, right? Who was from Guam. So I'm from Guam. She has a little terrier that she named Guam because she was so close to this babysitter when she was young. And she just didn't want to go to Guam because she heard about these snakes. Now, we have some snakes that were brought to the island as a result of war, blah, 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 but they're not poisonous. And she said they were hanging from the trees and blah, blah, blah. And none of that is true. So in order to kind of make it look better for her, she said, hey, I'm going to be in Asia. on a trip back to the mainland, we'll stop on Guam. And so this radio station wanted to do a concert. It never happened, but they put her up in a hotel, and they were kind of controlling the thing, and they were going through this spiel and stuff. You know how it is. They wrangle you into a place. They tell you where to get your shots. They tell you who's going to be there. And I just said, forget all that. Let's go outside and see where she's going to be coming out of, and let's kind of ambush her. I hate to use the word, but really that's what we were doing. And so we just happened to be in this spot, and this guy comes out from this door. It's a door from one of the towers in this hotel. And I say, hey, do you know where the security is for Mariah? He goes, hey, just stay where you are. Mariah's going to be coming out of here. I said, man, thank you so much. We're going to stay right here. And as soon as he said that, you start to see her entourage come out of this elevator, and they're coming out towards us. And I was the only reporter and my photog to be in that area.
Wow.
We started following her, and we ended up at the peanut gallery where everybody was staged, and all of the photogs and everybody, ushers, concierge, everybody was like looking at me like, how the hell did you get back there? And I was like, because we waited. We stayed where we thought we were going to see her. And I was the only one to get the interview with Mariah Carey when she was in Guam. So, it's about being in the right place at the right time, and kind of having situational awareness, right? And even if you don't have the right tools at the time, you can pivot and do things so that you can still get the story. And that's how we are, in the media industry, right? Where sometimes you don't have the right tools on you. Somebody may have stolen your bag, right? But you have your one camera with you, not the other one. Stuff like that happens all the time. But it's how you pivot, how you can be resilient in the moment and still capture the story for your audience. And Ron has more than done that several times. If you just hear what he's saying, Halle Berry being in that moment, getting the shot without really being able to see the shot where Kobe is doing his thing. And now, he's a legend. He was a legend when he was alive. Now he's an even bigger legend. Now I'm going to end on Kobe. I said it once before in this show. Kobe said when in retirement, he wanted to be something different. And that was actually to be a storyteller. So all of us who told stories about that guy wanted to be one of us. And that's coming from a legend. So anyway.
All right. I'm going to set up this next photo with probably some meaningless trivia. I never understood how face up versus face down, these athletes would be competing in two different sports. One is luge and one is skeleton. So if you're face down, it's skeleton. If you're face up, it's luge. Was this part of your protest or was this part of your Olympic assignment?
No, this was part of my protest. I went up to Lake Placid and photographed this. And the quick story with this one, I got in the stands and went to a certain level, and I said, okay, I'm going to wait to photograph when it came by. And then these three guys stood right in front of me. And at the time I was not happy, but then when I saw the photo, I just thought it added to the photo, and that was shot with the 300 millimeter lens. And it kind of compressed the background. And then I do back button focus when I focus, and it came out. And again, this is part of the protest story. what skiing have to do with shooting winter sports. That's one of my favorite photos too.
Now, how many photos in the spurt to capture this frame?
Oh, I'm going to say probably about 40, because I'm panning left to right while he's coming down. You don't wait till he's right in this spot and then you fire the camera. As soon as I can see him, I'm panning left to right. And like I said, I was really ticked off when I found these guys in front of me. But then, the photos where they weren't in, I thought this was a better photo because it actually shows. You could almost think there was looking at them on TV or something, but that was they were just happened to be walking, I guess, to their seat and then watch him come through. And for
Yeah,
photographers, they like the story where I'm shooting at 2.8 and it's throwing those guys out of focus, but then I'm focused on the athlete there.
yeah, I think if you didn't have them in this frame, you would have thought you're getting an aerial view down on him,
Right.
but really he's scraping the wall.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think that's an amazing shot, and yeah, you turned these guys from an annoyance into a magical
Yeah.
picture.
Yeah, that's one where sorry for cursing at you. you know.
Well, and so I had another story with like celebrities, and it was Don Johnson and oh gosh, Emilio Estevez. Um, not Emilio Estevez, his brother. Oh God, I'm getting this all mixed up. But anyway, it was an opening for a restaurant, Planet Hollywood, and all the international press were there. Again, peanut gallery, and I said, "I'm a local boy. You guys aren't going to get this story over me." And so, man, I had to do the same. I had to apologize later because there was a lot of elbows and stuff
Wow.
to get to the position to be able to ask questions, right? So I wasn't able, I wasn't the guy with the camera. I was the guy with the microphone. And so getting that microphone to where it needed to be, I had to be, this is what I said. I don't want to be these guys, right? The pushy, out of towners who don't care about you. They just care about the story. But in order for you to be able to get the story, sometimes you have to be that guy with the elbows to get where you need to be.
Very good. That is true.
And what a wonderful segue. You want to talk elbows? Let's bring on the next picture. Another fabulous moment in, I guess, sports history. This may not have been a Super Bowl game, but it's still a moment in time. And let's talk about elbows. Have you ever been tackled as a photographer on the sideline?
Yes. At the Meadowlands, I saw the videotape where I'm falling down. I'm on the sideline. The play came at me, and I'm going down. And that particular time, I had my 400-2.8, which is like an $9,000 lens on the monopod. And you see me falling down, but I'm holding my arm up, and the 400-2.8 was up in the air. I'm laying on my back, but I made sure that lens didn't take a beating. So, yeah, it's when you get older, it really becomes a situation. When I was younger, it was the 100% get the shot. But now I do TV work for my town and we cover high school sports. And I get out of the way in a hurry now. I try to hold the shot, but I'm not taking a tackle. In the game. Like about a month ago, I slipped on some ice and pulled my arm out of my shoulder, and that wasn't cool at my age to do something like that. But I was in the end zone for that shot, and with a 70-200, and was able to capture that. This is from the sidelines. Yeah. Yeah, I guess they may have been like on the 20-yard line or something. So I switched to the shorter lens, a zoom lens, 70 to 200, and then the play came at me, and I fired off a sequence to get this particular photo.
Yeah, Mike is making a reference to the lens and the glass. That's it's a piece of hardware.
Yeah, when I first got started, I was working at General Motors, so I had a good job, but I didn't have the credit rating, and so when I needed to buy a 400-2.8 and a 300-2.8, the bank said, yeah, we're going to need a cosigner. So I went to my dad. I said, Dad, I need these two lenses to shoot football with, and I need a cosigner. So my dad said, you want to play with the big boys? You got to have the big boy toys. Let's go. Where are we going? And he co-signed for me to get the two lenses and that was the Canon 400-2.8 and the Canon 300-2.8 lenses.
Oh, that is a fabulous story on its own. Your dad referencing, if you want to play with the big boys, you gotta have the big boy toys. I love that. I absolutely love that.
That's how he was, He didn't like it. They were all thought I was crazy when I told him I was quitting General Motors and gonna go do photography full time. I had 10 years in at GM. I only needed 20 more and then I could have retired, but I hated General Motors. So I'm, anyway. The Screen Machine. Do we have time for another story? For this photo, long story short, Six Flags Great Adventures open, and for about 5 years, I tried to get in to do photography for Six Flags, and they never returned any of my phone calls or any of my mail. And then when the Screen Machine was unveiled, I got hired to go down and photograph it. And so before I left for the assignment, my wife and I said a prayer. I said that I'm going to go down there, and by the time I end, they're going to ask me to be their photographer. That was my actual prayer. And so I went and worked with her name was Anita. First, we shot the opening of the Screen Machine, and then she took me around the park to get some other photographs. And then she asked me if I was a staff photographer for the newspaper, and I said no, I was a freelancer. And then she invited me. She says, well, how would you like to freelance for us? And I said I would love to. And I did 35 years at Six Flags. And I have 3 boys. Every vacation we've ever been on was to an amusement park in the country. I've been to all of the major amusement parks in the country to ride roller coasters. And this was the last roller coaster, the Jersey Devil, that I photographed. And they're getting ready to open up a new roller coaster next year. And I'm looking forward to doing photography. If you follow my social media, I'm going to be doing a post talking about my 35 years of working at Six Flags. And I'm going to post on my website about 100 photos from those 35 years. So stay tuned.
All right. Listen, you sent me a lot more photos, which I'd love to keep talking and sharing and hearing the stories.
Okay.
We're at the top of the hour. It has been an absolute pleasure. And I'd love to have you back and hear more of these stories, because I just love what we're doing here. We're bringing community together. It was not too long ago, about an hour ago, you were a little nervous, and now here you are, an hour later, and you're just right into it. We've lowered your barrier of vulnerability. We've lowered the barrier of entry into this conversation. The audience is listening. They're engaged. They love your story or stories. Jay has been just stellar at complimenting and completing one story with a narrative of its own. And I just love Jay for that, because he's just a fountain of knowledge when it comes to storytelling, but he backs it up with stories of his own. So, gentlemen, it has been an absolute delight. This we got a special request. Marcia would like a part 2 next week. All right, it may not be next week, but I'm totally open to a part 2. I'd love to. Let's put that invite out there. When you come back from your bear trip in Alaska, would love to bring you back up for it.
Oh, I would love to, and I apologize for being long-winded with the stories.
No.
know.
Don't apologize. If you want practice going on and a practice on longevity when it comes to live streaming, you gotta join Keith Keller and his audio events. They go on for hours. A couple of weeks ago, we were on. I jumped on late, but I believe it was 6 hours that we had made it through. So we can talk. You don't have to worry. There's no shortage of people wanting to talk and people wanting to hear our stories. We're now being asked. Layla is asking, please drop your social media. I want to follow you. So I have all his links, Layla, and I will drop them in the comments. The QR code that I've got up on the top right-hand corner will take you to Ron's website. Ron, why don't you tell us a little bit about what members will experience when they scan the QR code?
I have an offer of 7 photography travel trips, and I'm also offering a copy, a PDF copy of my Bear With Me book. And what I would like to do is just keep you informed with the email of some of the blog posts and trip announcements and just different opportunities that will come up with photography. I hope to be doing photo tours to racetracks in New Jersey, or maybe going out to a minor league baseball game to photograph. And then if you're interested in places like Tanzania, Cuba, or Alaska, bears catching salmon, then hopefully you could join us on a trip, one of my photo tours.
Hey, I'm gonna offer you an opportunity. I work on 1,200 acres as a director for the visitor center there of this conservation property in Georgia.
Oh.
And we have wetlands, and we've got forests, and we're adjacent to the Chattahoochee River.
Wow. Okay.
So, and we've got gators that just came out of brumation.
Oh boy. Every time I would go to Florida, my youngest son would say, Dad, get a picture of some gators for me. I was Dad of the Year when I came home with photos of gators. So sounds great.
Yep. So we're going to have an RV park there. We've got a cabin that's just been renovated. So you're welcome.
I have an RV, and my dream, I was hoping starting in May to live in my RV and travel around the country and photograph around the country. That was my dream. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull it off or not, but that's what I was trying to do, starting in May to do that. So it sounds like a plan.
All right, man. We'll stay in touch.
All right.
And you're coming back for part 2.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
All right. It sounds like our audience is really, really excited to have you back for part 2. Not sure where we are on time. I know that Jay has an offer of his own that he wants to go over. Jay, why don't you share a little bit about your offer?
So who's ever still with us right now, masterclass.ruleyourstory.com. I'm going to give you 14 days access to the author section of this. 14 days. You can use it however you want. AI, all of it will be available to you during this 14 days. Just drop in the comments interested, and I'll go ahead and DM you and we'll talk. I'll get you 14 days. So do that, and you'll have the opportunity to learn from me through AI on how to share your story. The rules of engagement and storytelling will help you do that.
Very good.
Fantastic. Listen, I typically don't do this, but because there are people who have stuck around and are enjoying this so much, if you're able to, great. If you're not, then we're going to schedule another show anyway. Ron, if we open the stage, and if there's anyone who would like to come up on stage and ask you a question, are you good for time, or is
Sure.
time?
Oh, yeah, I'm fine.
Jay, how you doing for time?
I'm okay.
You're okay? All right. So if there's anyone who would like to come up, just let me know and I will send you the studio link, and let's continue this conversation because I'm just having a fabulous time. And I know I've been notorious for cutting it at the hour because I want to respect our listeners and I want to respect our guests. But I'm feeling a different type of vibe and a different type of energy. And I think it's warranted that we give the opportunity for other members to join us on stage. So let me just do that. I'm going to mute myself. You two continue the conversation while I get other members here up on stage.
All righty.
Man, you weren't kidding when you were talking about a brotherhood here. I think that all, news guys, right? All news heads, we all kind of have a camaraderie, even if we've never met each other. We're in different parts of the country, but the news business. I mean, there's so many similarities that we really are comrades in arms, right? Um, so I just, when I hear people who were in the industry, continue to be in the industry, seeing the changes over the years on it.
Oh God. Yeah, that's the sad part, the changes. It's because it's not the same what I was able to experience, and if I'm invited to talk to new photographers, I honestly tell them what it's like to be in the business now. And then if you have the passion to overlook some of the downfalls and just enjoy the craft, then you'll be fine. But I tell them the truth. It's a tough industry right now. My youngest son is starting to get into photography, and I'm trying to give him ideas of how he can make a living at it, and still enjoy to get what to do. And part of my dream is my photo adventures with Ron. I would love for that company to be successful, so that would be something that I could leave for him down the road. He likes to travel and do that kind of photography also. And so, that's my dream, to build that company up so that that's something he can fall back on and also get to enjoy it.
Oh wow! So a legacy.
Fantastic. So we have Layla and Mike joining us from the audience. This is a fabulous opportunity. Thank you, both of you, for joining us on stage. And I'm going to kind of mute myself and let you ask whatever questions and share whatever thoughts and sentiments you have to continue this conversation with Ron. Go ahead.
Amazing. Thank you, Ron. Like, you're amazing. I'm so fascinated. I wanted to talk to you. I didn't want if we can keep going, I'm just super excited. So thank you for having us on stage with you. And I'm just wondering, because you're doing all these, it's such an art. It's such like picking the right timing of like getting those right pictures. Like before you get into setting up, getting all your gear, preparing yourself for doing these shoots, like how do you prepare yourself mentally to be able into that in that moment to be able to capture that? Does it take hours to get that great shot, or sometimes it just happens?
No, I like to get the assignment, and then I'll take them in order. Tomorrow night I'm doing something at Princeton, photographing a show. It's like the dress rehearsal of a show, and I like to know ahead of time, and then I'll start thinking about what type of photos I'm going to want to try to get. And then once I get there, most of the time it never goes the way you thought it was going to go. There's always curveballs thrown at you, and you just have to be prepared to handle those curveballs. I said earlier that I'm a disgruntled Christian. I love God. I love Jesus. I trust them. I always say my prayers before every assignment, and I do it unto God. I say, Lord, let me take photos that please you, and therefore has to please my clients. Now, for those who don't believe in that stuff, that's cool. I have no problem with that. But I do believe, and I could tell you some of the miraculous things that have happened to me. And so, and that's my secret. I'm giving back the gift that was given to me, and therefore we just get the job done. But I mean, you won't know how many times I've planned a shoot, and then they just throw a whole big curveball at you. You know, you one when I was doing the Moscow Ballet, we were in North Carolina for 2 nights, and the first night I shot, everything was great. The lighting was good. It was just great, and I couldn't wait to get back to the next night. And as soon as we pulled into the door, the manager of the theater said, we got so many complaints about how noisy your camera was. There's no way in heck you're going to be on the floor. And they put me in a back room with a glass between me, a soundproof room to photograph the rest of the night from. So it's always different things that happen that interferes, but you just need to go with the flow. And, I've never not had an assignment where I actually said, I'm sorry, I blew it. Knock on wood, that never happened. So
That's amazing. Thank you, Ron. I appreciate it. And I thank you for sharing some curveball because that was one of my next questions. So that's a really interesting one that, they had to come up with
yeah,
that. But you decided, you know what, I'm here, I'm doing my job, I want to do what I'm doing. And you just went with the flow, which that's amazing. So thank you for
yeah,
that.
yeah. Thank you. We're not hearing you, Mike. I think I see your lips moving.
How about now?
Okay, very good.
Awesome. Sorry. I said I could fanboy on you all night, man. It's amazing your story and the synchronicity because I've been in photography forever, not as a pro, as a very avid amateur.
Mhm.
But my curveball question is: have you ever been? I mean, I know you did a lot of stuff for pro, but have you ever been on a vacation or somewhere where being behind the camera, um, how do I put this? Kind of robbed you from being able to be present in that moment. Uh, because again, because I was doing a lot of amateur photography, there was times where I really felt that maybe, like I did weddings and event photography and stuff, and I'm like, man, I really kind of wanted to experience the moment, and I missed that because, like I was doing it for family or friends, and I really wanted to capture that shot, like you're talking about. Did you ever have anything like that happen?
Uh, like whenever I was on vacation with my family, I left my cameras home.
Mm,
Okay, and part of the reason was because I've had too many fingers. I've had 3 camera bags stolen. And so, and all of our vacations were to amusement parks.
mm.
We were a roller coaster family, okay? And so, I didn't want to have my equipment. And then at the time, my wife would do all the photography because, you know, I I have a saying, some of the people that know me closely, they know that if I'm not getting paid, my cameras don't shoot. They 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 want to know that they're getting these guys say we don't shoot, unless we're getting paid. And so, and I'm okay with that. I don't mind that. And to be honest with you, if a photo opportunity does come up, okay, I'm not going to say it, but so that's it. So I understand what you're saying, though. What happened with me with sports? I was at Shea Stadium covering a baseball game. It was in July, and everybody was there with their families, enjoying their families and everything. And I just said, I'm tired of this, you know. And so I just said, I don't want to do sports anymore. I want to do corporate photography. And that's how I got into doing corporate photography. Monday through Friday, I'm working most of the time. Every once in a while, there'll be an event or something that you have to cover, but you're home and you're not flying and all that other stuff. And that's what I was able to do to come around that. So, and fortunately, I haven't really said, boy, I wish I had my camera so I could have photographed that properly. So I hope you didn't open up a door where now that's going to come up, where that situation happens.
Well, for me, you mentioned humping your bags. Well, and I did that on vacation for a long time. And I always worry, particularly internationally, because we've traveled quite a bit. I was worried about having my bag stolen. And
Yeah,
as you know, the glass and the bodies. I mean, it's not just that. It's like you want to make sure that they're there. And like you,
right.
I had the wide on one body and the long on the other. And I was like, oh, you get so nervous.
Yeah,
Luckily, I mean, I always did the carry on, so I hadn't had the bag stolen. But that was always something, even when I was shooting events and stuff, like you said, you're worried about whether someone's going to take your gear.
yeah.
And so I'm sorry to hear that you lost them. But yeah, I'm loving this, man. It's really cool. And thank you, Jay and America, for having you on.
It's been a pleasure. And again, I my mentor says, Ron, don't be long-winded with your answers. And so I don't think I think he's doing a presentation tonight. So he'll look at the videotape, and I'm sure I'm going to get a call. I told you not to be long-winded with your answers. So anyway,
Man, I'm
I
going to get
apologize.
dinged by him.
You just did fine, Ron. You had no
Oh, that'd be
no
fun.
need to worry. Really, seriously.
Yeah, I mean,
Thank
listen, you
you.
have fans now. I mean, I'm like so fascinated. I'm like, I want to talk to him. I want to hear more about the stories. It's just so interesting and fascinating, and so you're out there and taking pictures, like moments, that you
Yeah,
capture these. It just that's it's storytelling in itself. Just looking at
yeah,
the photo, there's so much beside it, right, or behind it. I mean, and
yeah.
I'm just looking forward to for you to come back the second time. I mean, September is far. It's too far, America. What? Like, come on now.
I agree. I agree.
Hey,
What she said.
I'm gonna
Right?
piggyback. I'm gonna piggyback on Mike's question and ask you: have you ever been caught in a moment where you forget that lens cap and you miss the photo?
No, 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 no. I have a procedure, and I'm ready to go. I even like I told you tonight, all day. I'm worried because this is the first time I'm on this system, and I like to just try to make sure everything is okay so that we're ready to go. When I was doing the Moscow ballet tour, I averaged 3 hours sleep a night. When I was shooting the Beijing Olympics, I was averaging 3 or 4 hours sleep every night. One of the photos I did for a hospital, I had to photograph this autism kid that was going to break a record running for Rutgers, 100-yard run. And so at that time, I needed 2 hip replacements. And so I'm trying to decide, how am I going to shoot this guy running 100 yards? Am I going to just go in the end zone and wait till he gets to me on the other end? Or am I going to try to run and photograph him while he's running? And so I decided I better try to run, because if there's people in front of me, I'm not going to get a clean shot if I'm waiting for them in the end zone. And so I ran backwards for a few minutes, and all of a sudden I couldn't do it anymore, and they passed me. And then by the time I caught up to them at the end, they picked the kid up. The football players picked the kid up, and they spun him around. And by the time they got to me, I got the shot of him smiling and all happy. And it was just like a Kodak moment, and no one ever knew that I wasn't actually for the whole run of the play, but I got the key shots that we needed to get.
Fantastic. And I believe you dropped a
Oh,
couple
we're
of
not
those
hearing you.
pictures.
There you go.
I believe you
Yeah,
dropped a
I
couple
think
of those
I
pictures
thought I had that in
in-
there.
You did. There
Yeah.
was such an abundance of pictures. And in fact, here's what I'm going to do. I usually take my live streams and I repurpose them. And I'm going to include the pictures that you shared that weren't shown tonight. And I'll
Okay.
feature them in my Substack. And I don't know if you're on Substack, but I'll send you a copy, because you don't need to be a member or a subscriber, but you get to
Okay.
see how I'm going to write this up and help amplify. You touched on how you're trying to build your social footprint. We're going to help you
Right.
here tonight and
Oh, thank you very much.
continue the
And
story.
let's have the gentleman with the music proposal maybe add to it.
Well,
Just kidding.
you just talked to him. That's
Okay.
we'll put something together. We'll put a collaboration together and see how we can help one another.
Very good.
This has been fabulous. I don't know if anyone else has any questions. I do have one parting question.
Mhm.
I got a question.
Appreciate. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So Ron, I remember a time, and I was a little younger then, but we had a video camera that cost like maybe 15,000 at the time, and that video camera, the videographer was holding the entire time, and we were going to go get a video of some bats. I didn't know where these bats were. Now they are on the island. They are extinct, or so we thought. And they found them now in some trees. What they failed to mention before we got out there was that these trees were over a cliff. And in order to get the shot, we had to literally shimmy between a tree and the cliff like this to get down
Wow.
to the spot. And at some point, the cameraman goes, "You're going to need to hold this while I shimmy down." And I'm literally in a tree. And I said, "You're not handing me that $15,000 camera." "No, sir." He said, "There's the only way I'm going to get down is if you hold it." I said, "All right, hand it to me." And I'm wrapping my hand around the straps and everything, and like I'm holding it like a football. But these are the times where we're trying to get the shot, and we're doing these things in precarious ways to get the shot.
Whatever it
Do you
takes.
remember one time that you had to do something similar, or maybe two?
Probably riding a roller coaster and trying to get a shot like that. I would say that was probably the hardest one. Um, you know, and probably it wasn't that I was afraid, but it was more or less trying to be steady. Now, for the Jersey Devil at Six Flags, when that ride opened up, I just happened to be there the day that the inspector actually pinned the seal of approval on the wall of the ride, and I took that photo, and I thought that was a cool photo to get, because it took some time to get it, and then you got him photo, and then I asked for permission if I could go and take the shot, a video, and so I was the only one on the car, and then I'm in the front row, and first time riding it, And again, it's one of those situations where I don't care. I need to get this shot. And so you're almost jumping out the seat and everything, but you're trying to hold that camera steady. And you know, that's the time. And again, it's like you don't really have time to think about the fear factor. Same thing with the bear, you know. It's like I got to get the shot, and that's all that matter. One time I was photographing a building, a construction site, and I was trying to get the right angle, and I took a step to the right, and I stepped on a manhole cover, and the manhole cover flipped, and something told me. Normally I put my camera bag down on the ground and then just go and take whatever camera I'm using. But something said, put your camera bag on. Maybe I thought somebody was going to try to grab my bag. And so I put the camera bag on. And that's what kept me from falling down in the manhole.
Wow.
Because when I started going in the manhole, the bag stopped me and it pushed my arm up. And I tore my rotator cuff on that. But at least I didn't fall all the way down in the hole, you know. So stuff happens, you know.
Ron, that's an angel looking out for you, bro.
Oh yeah. Well, like I said, you know, as a video cameraman and a photographer, I've worked with some of the top ministries in the United States. Okay, very famous preachers, and traveled the world with them. And just very disappointed in the way the church is being represented now, and that's why I call myself a disgruntled Christian. But you know, I'm constantly thanking God for the opportunities to come up, and especially you know when it comes to doing photography and different opportunities. You know, I never dreamed of shooting the Olympics. It was never on my bucket list or something to do. And I'm leaving MSNBC on the turnpike, and the guy calls me. He says, "What are you doing?" I says, "I'm on the turnpike driving home." He says, "Pull over, pull over." I says, "What is it? What is it? I got something to tell you." And then he says, "How would you like to photograph the Athens Olympics?" And then I'm looking in the car for the cameras because I thought I was being punked or something, you know. And it was like never a dream. It just happened, and I could tell you tons of stories of how that's happened. And again, I believe it's God. You know, I used to volunteer for different church work, not get paid, and then or give up job opportunities. And then once I did that week with that ministry, the next week I'd have 2 or 3 jobs come up that more than covered what I missed the week before. So you know that's part of my story, and I'm sticking to it.
It comes through, Ron. It really does. I'm not gonna get all maudlin, but you're shining, man. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you very much.
You're
I,
doing
I,
great.
I,
Really,
I,
you're doing great.
no, I love what I get to do. You know, I really do. You know, it's been a wonderful career. I had my 70th birthday party in June, and 60 people showed up. And the furthest came from Utah. His name is Mike Goldberg. He runs M&M Photo Tours. And then another person came from Massachusetts. And it was just such an honor. All of these people I got to meet and everything. And you know, when I just the last story I hope I'm going to tell. When I used to travel every week with these photographers, and all of us had full-time jobs, and then we were shooting sports too, you know. And so one day I get a phone call from this supermarket. They wanted me to photograph their supermarket, and they said, "Could you do it?" And I said, "Sure, a piece of cake." And then as soon as I hung up, I called one of the photographers I travel with every week. We've been cross country together, and I said, "Dave, I got a call to shoot a supermarket, but I don't know how to shoot fluorescent lighting. How do I shoot fluorescent lighting?" And he says to me, "Ron, I had to learn the hard way. You'll have to learn the hard way." And he wouldn't tell me how to do that. And
Wow.
I just said I would never be that way. If I can help another
Mm.
photographer, then I'm happy to do so. And that's part of what I enjoy. And and again, it's not like I was in college to learn how to do this. It's, to me, it's a gift. And anybody could do what I did. You just need to want to do it bad enough, and you too can be successful at this. It's harder now, because of the way the industry is. But if according to how bad you want to do it, you can do it. And I wouldn't tell anybody, no, you don't want to do this. No, if you want to sweat and tears, then go for it, because it's gonna pay off in the long run. Money isn't everything.
Amen.
So
Your
All
passion,
right.
and I think, just real quick, Americo, the passion shines through, and I think for anything that you're passionate about, and that you have persistence, that is what is going to get you through, those hard times. But dude, I am so glad I showed up tonight. I really am.
thank you. I appreciate that.
Now here's you said you weren't going to share another story, but I'm going to corner you into sharing one more story before we sign off. Your passion for photography is truly a blessing for those who you do work for. I am just honored to have you as my guest. And as our audience and attendees pointed out, they'd love to have you back. But here's my closing question. I also see behind you another passion, a hobbyist of sorts. Tell us a story of what is going on behind you as a hobbyist or collector.
Well,
Could be collector or hobbyist, maybe more collector than hobbyist. You tell us.
Well, I'm into model railroads, so this is like my maybe fourth layout, and I had this gentleman, Mike Gillespie, came in and helped me reset this layout. So, and I have a 4-year-old grandson. He's upstairs now visiting, and so I want to get that going. And then in the back corner, my father was into cars. I have a '59 Ford Galaxy in the garage that I'm trying to sell, but it's been sitting in there, and I haven't really started promoting it yet to try to sell it. But part of my inheritance is on that rack back there of all those little model cars that he would collect. And he has tons of them, And then if I have a bar that's on the other side, there's every Hess truck for probably 30 years. Hess comes out with the trucks every year, and I got like 10 of those over here on the window. And it's sort of like a man cave somewhat. I'm starting to hang photos up, but it's just some other hobbies that I have. And it's like right now, this needs to be rewired. And I was supposed to do that during the winter, and then all of a sudden it started getting warm over here. So we're going into spring, and now I'm going to want to be outside, photographing birds and lighthouses and covered bridges and things like that, So, yeah.
Beautiful. What a beautiful way to close it, hearing something personal outside of photography. Thank you so much for opening your doors, your stories, sharing those with us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, be sure to tell Andrew not to beat me up, okay?
No, don't you worry about Andrew. And Andrew recommended you with high regard, and he knows that you're doing well. I can assure you that you did a fabulous job. Yeah, you kept me from my number one rule to try to start and end on time. We broke that rule, and that really means something, and it says something.
Thank you.
I look forward to hearing more about the Alaska trip, and I look forward to sharing and writing a summary for my followers over on Substack as well as on LinkedIn. It'll find its way home. It's been a fabulous conversation. Jay, why don't you take it home for us? I will thank Layla and Mike for participating, joining us on stage, and being part of the conversation. Take us home, and we'll close the room afterwards.
Yeah, I think the one thing that we can gain from this, and there's many, there are many things that we could gain from it, but the stories that can be told in various forms, right? Whether it be in print, whether it be digital, whether it be video, but there are stories to be told. And there are so many ways to tell those stories. But I think the willingness on our part to share those stories is what's going to help us understand each other, and it's going to help us learn from each other. And tonight was a really prime example. He talks about rambling on, not one bit was what we perceived as rambling. It was gold, right? And your persistence, sir, all the way back then when you were 19, to learn the craft and to share those stories. This is just another evolution of that, just like you doing video now. This is the next step in your evolution as a storyteller. And you're a great one, sir. Thank you for joining us.
You almost have, I'm fighting the tears away right now. I really appreciate what you're saying. Like I said, I want to be a blessing to people, and this is me. I wanted to be short-winded, but anyway, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I was told I'd be able to have a recording of this, so I'm going to treasure this, and I really appreciate your words, because that's going to give me the freedom to feel more comfortable of just, I guess, being in me, this is the package. So thank you so much. I promise you, I'm fighting away the tears, because it has deep meaning to me to hear you say that. It really does.
All right. It is, before we bring all of us to tears, we're going to close the room. God bless you, Ron,
Thank you.
everything that you do. And continue believing, even as a disgruntled Christian. You're doing a fabulous job. And on that note, we'll close things. And thank you, everyone, for watching. And until next time, when we return for another episode of the Storytelling Journey. Bye for now.